Cullinan Therapeutics and its partner Taiho just cleared a huge hurdle in one of the most closely watched fights in lung cancer drug development, and the win comes with both a giant check attached and a direct shot at Johnson & Johnson. The drug at the center of this is Zipalertinib, a small molecule pill that Cullinan Therapeutics originally discovered and licensed to Taiho, targeting a specific mutation called an EGFR exon 20 insertion in non-small cell lung cancer. In a Phase 3 trial called Rybrevant, Taiho and Cullinan Therapeutics tested Zipalertinib combined with standard platinum-based chemotherapy as a first-line treatment, meaning the very first therapy a patient gets, in adults with previously untreated, advanced, or metastatic non-small cell lung cancer carrying this exact mutation. At a planned interim analysis, Zipalertinib plus chemotherapy hit its primary endpoint, significantly and meaningfully extending progression-free survival compared with chemotherapy given alone, with what the companies are calling a manageable safety profile. Here's where the money comes in. Under Cullinan Therapeutics' 2022 licensing deal with Taiho, Cullinan Therapeutics is entitled to a $30 million milestone payment once Zipalertinib gets FDA approval for second-line use, and a much larger $100 million milestone payment once Zipalertinib secures approval as a first-line treatment. Zipalertinib is already under FDA review right now for second-line use, as a monotherapy in patients previously treated with platinum-based chemotherapy, with a decision expected by February 27, 2027. This new Rybrevant win in the first-line setting is exactly the data Taiho and Cullinan Therapeutics need to go after that bigger $100 million approval milestone next. But the real drama here is who Cullinan Therapeutics and Taiho are about to fight for market share. The dominant player in this space right now is Johnson & Johnson, whose drug Rybrevant, known generically as amivantamab, is already the standard of care for second-line EGFR exon 20 treatment. J&J's Rybrevant franchise, which also covers other EGFR mutations, pulled in more than $700 million in 2025 alone, giving you a sense of just how much money is riding on a mutation that only shows up in a small slice of all lung cancers. Making things even more interesting, Zipalertinib's own data shows it doesn't work equally well in every patient, and the split lines up almost exactly with prior exposure to J&J's Rybrevant. In patients who had only had chemotherapy before, without ever getting Rybrevant, Zipalertinib produced a 40% response rate. In patients who had already been treated with Rybrevant, that response rate dropped to 30%. And in patients who had been treated with Rybrevant plus another EGFR exon 20 drug, the response rate collapsed to just 14%. That pattern strongly suggests cross-resistance between Zipalertinib and J&J's Rybrevant, meaning doctors may eventually have to think carefully about which drug to use first, since using one first appears to blunt how well the other works afterward. And Johnson & Johnson isn't the only rival in the room. AstraZeneca, alongside its partner Dizal, already has an approved competitor on the market called Zegfrovy, known generically as sunvosertinib, going after this exact same EGFR exon 20 patient population. On top of that, a smaller biotech called Rybrevant Biopharma is racing toward its own Phase 3 data later this year with a rival drug in development. So if Zipalertinib does eventually win first-line approval, Taiho and Cullinan Therapeutics won't just be taking on Johnson & Johnson's Rybrevant. They'll be stepping into a crowded fight that already includes AstraZeneca and Dizal's Zegfrovy, with Rybrevant Biopharma potentially joining as a fourth competitor before too long. For Cullinan Therapeutics specifically, a company much smaller than Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, or even Taiho, this Rybrevant result is a genuinely big deal. It's not just validation of the science Cullinan Therapeutics originally discovered in Zipalertinib. It's a very real $100 million payday sitting on the other side of an FDA approval that now looks a lot more likely than it did before this data came in. That is the story of Cullinan Therapeutics and Taiho's Zipalertinib Phase 3 REZILINT3 win, sets up $100 million milestone, and a fight with J&J's Rybrevant, AstraZeneca/Dizal's Zegfrovy. Add your perspective in the comments, share this story with a colleague, and subscribe for the next ConferenceHype narrative.